because the topic of today is based on the book that was sent by the performer of today. And it's called, in proper English, Waar gaat het heen en wat kan ik doen? Where is it going to and what can I do about it? Because the crisis is something that is gripping and it's something that's worrisome for everyone, I guess. And we are very lucky that we have a guide in these difficult times. So I want you to join me in a nice round of applause and let's welcome Lucas de Man. The floor is yours. Phil.
Thank you, Lucas, for doing my sales. Hi, my name is Lucas, and yes, I'm from Belgium. Then you know everything. I run two amazing creative studios called Studio Possible Future and Studio Biobased Creations. We are a collective of creatives, all kinds, that are busy with the changing world. We do all kinds of disciplines, by the way, so from installations, performances, videos. At the Dutch Design Week coming up in October, we have a big exposition about the future of construction and nature. We call it always storytelling and visualization. That's what we do. That is our job. And the content that we deal with are the changing world and the crises there are. So if you look at the world, you see that there's a big crisis happening, or actually crises. By the way, for the fans of PowerPoint, I put in all the effects. So, because nobody does anymore. All right. So all the crises coming up, and we have all kinds of topics that you see. And this is what sometimes worries me if you read the news, or if you listen to the radio, or if you look online, that you see like, oh, this is going wrong, right? We have the climate going wrong, and then there's more loneliness than ever, and then the youth has more burnouts than energy, and then you see the farming going down, and the whole world seems like it's crumbling down. And then they say, welcome, you're students now, and you have to change the world, make it better, and that's it, right? And then you think, but how? What is happening? And a lot of people feel afraid. There's a lot of anxiety. People feel like, oh my God, what can I do? Right? And they are right, in a way, to be afraid, because the inequality is growing. Not only the people who have money versus the people who don't, because that is growing, but also the people who have access versus the people who don't, right? Which is actually a bigger topic than just money. Those who can arrange, because you don't have to have the money if you know the people who have access to everything, right? Because then you also have access. But what we see is a lot of people, even some people with money, don't have access to technology or to wealth or to possibilities or to jobs, right? Still in Holland and in Belgium, just by your surname, you can get no job if your surname is not Dutch or Belgium enough, right? So that's no access. You can have all the money in the world if you want. So inequality is growing. But what is growing more is insecurity. What is right? What is wrong? What can I do? What do I have to do? Right? What choices do I make? What words can I say? A lot of people have the feeling, right? I don't know what to do anymore. Right? I don't know what is right or what is wrong. And our main goal that we have is to be happy. Or at least, that's what my parents told me. Who recognized this? When I was 16 years old, my parents told me, Lucas, because they know my name, they said, Lucas, right, you can do and be anything you want. We don't care as long as you're happy. Who had the same? Who heard the same from their parents? Okay, some people, yeah. Who still had parents that said, you have to do this? 5, okay. Older generation a little bit as well. Okay, no problem, yeah. So we are brought up with the idea you can do and be everything you want as long as you're happy, right? Which is shit to hear if you're young, right? Because when is one happy, right? What is happiness? When am I happy enough that my mother thinks, Lucas is happy. We did a good job, right? This is really effed up because happiness is like a pressure upon us, right? We have to be successful. And we combined happiness and success. Right? If you're successful, you're happy. If you look at any 5 seconds at Instagram, you see people saying, look how successful I am, I'm so happy. Right? They are not, by the way, but this is what we connect. And success is something that we defined, and now it's like having money and status. That is success. And you can do it all on your own. Your parents told you can do and be anything you want. Right? We don't care as long as you're happy. Which is now as long as you're successful. Which also means that if you fail, you're the loser, right? Because you can do and be anything you want. If you stutter, you do, of course, speaking in public space. If you feel bad, you take a pill or two or go to a therapist. Solved, right? If you don't know what to do with your startup, you watch 7,000 videos of people telling you to do how a startup, right? How to be successful. There are like 5,000 books. Read them and become successful. If not, you're the loser, right? You'll never be happy, right? Go sit in your room and be depressed. What a lot of people feel like. This is ridiculous, right? And we still keep believing in this story. Success, you make your own. Failure, you make your own. You. Not the world, you. How and why is this so? I see a lot of people thinking, right? This is funny. We talk about the climate problem, we talk about burnout problem, but we never go and look, how did we come here, right? Why does this happen? So, a little history lesson. For the Dutch people, this used to be in your curriculums at the high schools, right? It's called looking back in the past, but somehow they skipped it. Right? For all the foreigners here, like me, right? History, right? Normal stuff. Okay. 18th century, while ago for the Dutch people, while ago, 18th century, right? Here you see, this is an AI picture, of course. You see the French Revolution and the American independence struggle. What happened in the 18th century? A new class of people came. Before that, you had power and money if you were nobility, adel, or church clerus, right? And then suddenly, because of the discovery of new continents, people did trade, and common people, like us, suddenly made a lot of money. And so it's a new class of people, salespeople who got a lot of money so that children could study, read, write, and think. Before that, you could not read or write if you were not nobility or church. So people could read, write, and think, and they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why can we only have power if we are like born in nobility? Why can't we have power? Because we can think as well. So they started to fight for new values. Égalité and paternité and fraternité, French Revolution, but also the the Declaration of Independence of America. This says literally, every man has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. First time ever in the history, written down, you have the right to pursue your own happiness. And for us, this is normal. This is never done before. For thousands of years before, it was always God or the gods decide if you're happy, or the community, if you are part of the Aristoteles gang, right? Then the community decides you're happy because you're doing good for the community. Suddenly it was you alone can search for your own happiness. So you can drive your horse outside and find gold, for example. The American dream was born, right? You have to understand, this was the first time ever in history. Right? In the West, they wrote down you can find your own happiness, which is amazing. It's liberating. Right? You, a simple person, can become something. Right? And happiness, they decided, was wealth and freedom. Freedom means that you can say what you want, that you can be part of power and community. And wealth means that you have no worries, you have a roof, you have food, you don't have to worry. Right? And the fact that you can have that, freedom and wealth, for them was happiness. Written down by the founders of the American Constitution. This was what was happening in Europe and in America, the idea that you as a person could get freedom and wealth. Right? Under that, you have some values. For example, I love this word, I didn't know it, maakbaarheid for the Dutch people, malleability. You can change the world the way you want it. You can create your own world, you. Right? And the second value was progress. It will always get better because we have technology, inventions. We started out with apes, and now we are like the highest degree of people there are in the West. Right? They were not modest. They really believed we are the best, and it will only be better from there on. 18th century. You know what the funny thing is? It worked. For 250 years, every generation, and this is scientifically proven, this is not an opinion by a Belgian guy, right? We don't have opinions, we just shut up and wait till the conquerors left our country. This is scientifically proven. Since 250 years, every generation, not every individual, every generation got more freedom and more wealth. Every. Also the ones in World War I and II. Every generation. Voting rights for men, voting rights for women. Right? Freedom was growing. People could debate more, be more part of society. Wealth. Right? Hot showers since the 60s, for example. Sewage system, the pill, whatever. People could do more. Buy their own house, for example. Completely new. So every generation since 250 years got more wealth and more freedom. until now. Who here is under 45? Yay! We are the first generation since 250 years that will have less freedom and less wealth than our parents' generation. Less. Yes. Can make you scared. This is a very important thing that we tend to forget. Every YouTube video, every Instagram and TikTok and all that says, look how much wealth, look how great I'm doing. But if you just look at the numbers, right, we as generation have less wealth and less freedom than a generation before us. What you could buy with one mid-income wage, what most of you will earn in your life, with one mid-income in the 80s, what you could buy with that, you could run a whole family, one person stayed at home, have a car, go on holidays. For the same amount of luxury, now you need 2 mid-income wages. And still it will be kili. Huh? But we think that we get richer all the time. Yes, the economy is booming, but who gets that richness, right? To whom it goes. If you really look at the numbers, as a population, we didn't got richer since the 80s. And the Rabobank, one of the big banks, calculated exactly the same thing. Right? So somehow we don't protest about that. Right? We cannot buy a house anymore. We say, "Aw, as long as we have Netflix." But Netflix is getting expensive as well. Right? And what are we going to do then? Watch each other? Have a conversation? Jesus. Okay, so a lot of people negative, right? A lot of people poor. But the good thing is, this can also be positive. Right? For the Klimt lovers, I'm sorry. Right? Okay, this can also be positive because crisis comes from the Greek word krise, which means change. Crisis doesn't come from everything goes to shit and we are doomed forever. It comes from things are changing. So that means that we can search, right? And searching means thinking and doing, by the way, not just blah, blah, also boom, boom. This is a reference for the Belgian people. Are there any Belgians? None? Too bad. Okay. So, right, thinking and doing, that is searching, right? We can search. We can search for new stories. We can say the whole idea of what success is, fuck it. We're going to change that story. We want a different definition of happiness, a different definition of success. We can. We can do that, like they did 250 years ago. They changed the definition. We can say, no, I want to buy a house. I want to be together with people. Loneliness and suicide and having a big house is not my goal in life, right? I want to be together or more with nature. We can make that. We can make new stories. We can have new technologies, new possibilities. AI, positive and negative. We'll talk about it later. New networks, new links. You have the old boys network. Let them be old and boys. We make new networks, right? We don't need all these old white men with their ball sacks hanging. I don't know why I said the last part. I just see them. And some of them are amazing, also their ball sacks. But still, we don't need them to decide what our future is. In the book that I wrote, Where's it Going, What Can I Do? We analyzed 9 topics to see what is going on. What is already happening. So not in the future, what is already happening now? What new technologies are there? What new insights are there? What organizations and people here in Holland and Belgium are fighting for the new story? And it's amazing, you see all these topics, right? From mental health to the future of construction, the future of agriculture, but also, for example, the future of work, the first one. 9 different topics, from soft to hard, looking what is already happening. And what we discovered is, so much is already happening, right? Innovation is not our problem. Our crisis is not innovation. People say, AI, that's the whole thing. AI, no, AI is a logical, by the way, AI already existed for a long time, the idea of artificial intelligence. AI will disrupt a lot, but it depends on what values we choose, right? So innovation and means not the problem. Every crisis, I said in the beginning, we can solve. Every climate crisis, we can solve, right? Housing problem, construction, we can solve. That's not the problem. The problem is that we don't. Why? Right? Because the real crisis we have, the real change we have, is a value crisis. What values are going to be important? If we keep the old values, right? Individuality, you just for yourself, profit is everything. So everything has to be profit, everything has to be accountable. So you have to risk avoidancy and make sure that there are no risks, make sure nobody can do a lawsuit, make sure you only go for profit and no human touch. If we keep that story, which we have already now for a few years, then of course we're going to shit with AI and with everything, yes. But if we choose other values, which we can, Maybe you're not going to shit, just a little bit shit, because there will always be shit, by the way, right? It's the way our intestines work, so there will always be some shit, right? So the big crisis is, what values do we think are important and where do we fight for? What technology are we going to use for those values? Because what we need the coming years is a practical, ethical dialogue. I call it like that. A dialogue means that you don't have to agree, because otherwise it's a monologue with two, right? So dialogue. Ethical means that you really think what is important, and practical is that you also execute it, not just talking, which you are very good at, talking about what we're going to do, like Israel, talking about it, right, instead of doing something. Practical, ethical dialogues. We're going to have hundreds of these the coming years, right? If you die, can you live on digitally, and what are your rights? It's already now a big issue. We don't talk about it, right? As students, AI and the university have to completely change the way they think, right? We have to talk about it. What values are we going to be based on? How are we going to work? What is a student if there is AI and everything in one button, you know? What are you going to learn here? Information or how to deal with insecurity? Right? We have these debates, we have these dialogues that we have to do, that we need to talk about values, right? So in the beginning I said we can search, but the honesty is we have to search. And this is for a lot of people, especially people that are already in the system for years, very difficult. Right? If you're dealing with construction, with water, with politics, for example, all these big topics have to change because the times are changing. How do you do that? How do we search? Right? Because what often, if you give a speech, a lot of people who give speeches, they end their speech with, we all have to work together and be nice. Thank you so much. And they go home. Right? Or let's do it. This is also a good one. You can do it. And you go home again. Right? A lot of speeches end with, the world is changing, but if we put our shoulders under it, we can do it. Yes, just like I do. Or the best thing is that you have people on stage who made 100 million by selling a company they just sort of started out of, a pub after 2 nights being drunk, right? And they said, the way I did was I just went for it and I got 100 million and this is how you do it. High five and go home, right? And then you are sitting there as a normal human being, right? Also trying to get drunk and have good ideas, but somehow you get no 100 million, right? And you think, but how? How do I do this? What is my next step to do? Because of course I want different values. Of course I don't want to go only for individuality. I mean, some here will, and maybe some of them will succeed and then die lonely. Who cares, right? But the idea is that most of us are trying to find new values. But how do we search? And in my job as a creative, because I create stuff, right, and installations, so on. But I also work for a lot of companies. For example, the Belastingdienst, the tax-paying company, they asked us to help them search, because they have no idea. They have a few scandals for the people who were here the last few years. They had a few tiny scandals in the tax-paying company. So a lot of people who work there feel like, nobody sees us. They are very traditionally organized, top-down, old men saying to young people, this is how you do life. They have no idea. They just say it, right? And young people going, okay, then I'll shut up. And then they say, and a meeting like this, now you think for yourself. And then they leave, because they don't want a vertical, they want a horizontal organization. They want it, right? Be horizontal, they said, and then they left. Right? So they asked creatives to help, which is amazing, because how do you search? Okay, I'll tell you how you search. Point 1, I have no idea how you search. Right? Very important. You also have no idea. Your teachers have no idea. Very important. People of power have no idea. If you only understand, remember one thing of this lecture, whatever this is, right? People have no idea. They just do. They try, they fail. Some people get 100 million because they were losers, right? At the right time, right place. Some people worked very hard. This is also what I love, right? How do you get very successful? You have to work very hard. And that's it. I worked very hard, right? I have a lot of friends who work very hard as well. We all work very hard. It doesn't mean you become successful in the old way, right? So the idea is we have no idea. All of us just get up out of bed and we have no idea. We just do. Some of us think we are better. No one is. No one. No one is better than you, and you are better than no one. We are just people. We just do. We try. So if a professor comes, he, she, them has knowledge, yes. So listen to it. But be critical. Think, yeah, why do you say this? Because all knowledge we had before, most of them already changed after 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. So it could be that you ask the question that the professor thinks, damn it, I don't know. I've never thought about that. Bam, dialogue. Yeah? No romance. Don't sleep with your professors. That's not what I'm saying. Dialogue. Yeah, I see some of you already thinking, okay. So, lesson 1, you don't know, nobody does. Freedom. Lesson 2, you will need others. I'm brought up in West Flanders. Just to give you an idea, West Flanders is in Belgium, the part of the coast where they have, since 2 years they discovered emotions there. I told my father about it, but he still doesn't understand what it is, so he still says, But I'm brought up with the idea, you have to do it alone. You come here, you have to be successful on your alone, you have to read, know, get your business done, carry your whole family, and do it on your own. Who got the same message? Do it on your own? Yeah, you see? Some people, do it on your own. Bullshit. Bullshit. Yes. You cannot do it on your own. You have to live life alone. That's true. But along the way, you meet people. Right? And that's the people you can ask questions. You can say, hey, help me, I don't know. That's it. Hey, I'm looking for this, I don't know. You need others. And I know it's a very simple thing to say, and I see some people laughing with it. I don't care. Those are the most lonely people, often. The fact that you need others is a realization a lot of people don't have. Because they feel they have to do it alone. They look at Instagram and there's one stupid guy who got super successful, as they say. You think, oh, I have to be the same. Right? Please don't. Those people are often lonelier than you can think. This is the last wisdom I give you. The idea that we can control everything, right? If you eat right, and if you sport enough, and if you do this course, and if you do that pill, you're going to be perfect in life. Not true. You can do everything right and fail. You can do nothing right, and it's amazing. You can't control your life. You can't control, actually you can control only just a little bit. Yes, you have to work hard. Of course, if you don't sleep, you go crazy. These are logical things, but it's like 10%. The rest you can't control, but you do have impact. Kissing your partner, yes or no, impact. Right? Asking for help, impact. If you're lost and you want to have and you want to talk to someone, impact. If you start a business, impact. If you don't start a business, impact. Everything you do has impact, even if it's just a little bit in your own life and in the life of others. And what we did in our conversation in the world is we changed it. You have almost no impact, but you can control everything. It's not true. You can't control shit, but you do have a lot of impact. Right? This is where the change lies, in the fact that we have impact, not in the fact that we have control. Okay. I will have time for questions, by the way. I made sure that I have a lot of time for questions, because I know a lot of you are critical, some of you cynical, but that's your own problem. The good news is, and this is very important also for a lot of governments and companies and so on, you can learn how to search. Because we're in a time where we have to search. We're not in a time where we know. We're in a time where we have to search new networks, new stories, new ideas. How are we going to do this? Let's search. Searching is an active thing. Right? It means my brother, for example, has a company, 600 employees, and he changed his company going from we know what we're doing to we don't know what we're doing as a company structure. So 600 people every day are open to see where are we going. And the company changed completely and is now more successful than when they knew what they were going to do. Why? It's because when you know what you're going to do, you don't look for other answers, you don't look for other ideas, you just know. The moment you're open, not insecurity, but you're open for what you don't know, you can change it. So what they did is instead of the salespeople here and the people who manufacture here, is that they made squads. So direct people from the highest level to the people on the work floor are in squads together, in teams. And they come up with ideas. Every Friday, people can challenge the company. Challenge. Say, we have to do things differently. And then they say, okay, what is your proposal? Let's make a squad. Let's try it out. Right? And the funny thing is, this company now has 4 new companies because there came new ideas. They said, wow, this is so great. Let's make a company out of it. These 4 companies are making more money now than the original company. Because the original company was making trucks. And who wants new trucks? Right? Less and less and less people. So it's being open for what you don't know. Okay, learn to search. In the book, I give 5 skills. There are probably 1,000 more. I just thought 5 was enough, right, for people to understand. Futures literacy, I don't know if you know the word. I didn't know it before I was doing the book, but I interviewed a few people. Futures literacy means that you know how to deal with the future. I was like, okay, but what do you mean by that? They said that you know how to deal with what you don't know. So that you're open for scenarios, which is also, by the way, for those in relationships, a very interesting thing to do. So the theory that they have, instead of going from A to B, like you say, I'm now here, I have to go here because I know how do I get there. This is okay, this is from A to B. Or we want to know B, how do we start with A? This is logical, normal future thinking. Their way of future thinking is the whole alphabet. So they did 2019, they did a test that was so cool with futures literacy for a hospital. The hospital had to go through some changes, so they organized a future thinking session, the future of the hospital. They had 10 tables, and one table was giving the idea, what if we have a hospital where you cannot touch people? And that table was like, oh, come on, that was a stupid question. They can talk about AI and new technologies, and we have this impossible idea of never touching each other. But then they said, no, think what does it mean if you have a hospital where you cannot touch each other? 2019. So they came up with ideas, and they go, all right. And then 1 year later, this was the only hospital that immediately had a plan how to deal with not touching. For those who don't know what I'm referring to, in 2020, there was Corona. There was a whole hype virus thing, I don't know. Hospital could not touch. And it's not that you have to prepare for everything, it's more the idea of that you're open for different options. So for example, in your relationship, right, there are no taboos. No, you can talk about everything in the possibility of it, right? You don't have to do it. What if we have a threesome? Everybody was thinking that, right? You don't have to do the threesome. Often, by the way, if you want to do a threesome, it's a lot of work. But the idea of thinking about it together and what would be the rules and what would be the ideas, then you understand what the values are for your relationship now, right? So the values for a hospital where you don't touch, you understand what is really important for us. So futures literacy means that you have the ability, that you do the exercise of thinking of all the possibilities, of many, also the crazy ones, to understand what is important now. In the book, I give you how to do this, or at least the experts. I don't know anything. I just interviewed experts, right? Self-reflection. Right? Very difficult. Look at schools in lower class and high schools. Now you've been taught to sit down and listen. This is education in Belgium. In Holland, people don't really know what education is anymore. You don't get information, you don't get any skills. It's sort of like chaos, but it's okay. No history, but what? So you're sitting there together, but you cannot discuss, you cannot search, and you don't learn soft skills. You don't learn what is good communication, what is listening, right? How do I ask questions and listen when someone says something back, right? So not, because I had an ex-girlfriend who said, Lucas, I don't have to say what I think, you just have to understand it. That is real love. I said, no, that's not love, right? That's telecommunication. That is if you're an alien, you know? People have to talk with each other, deal with it. I don't know if there are any people from Holland here who watch B&B voor Liefde. If someone ever watched B&B voor Liefde? It's an amazing program where people find love and ask no questions. None. So there's a woman says 6 men are coming to court her, and none of the men ask questions. Who are you? What are you doing? What's interesting in life? They just sit down and say, what's for dinner? It's amazing. It's like a lesson for young people not to become their fathers. Amazing, right? So social skills. How do you ask questions? How do you debate? How do you confront people? What if confrontation happens? How do you deal with it? You can learn this, and we don't learn it in schools. So we get information in schools that is probably going to be outdated in a few years anyways, and we don't deal with what we don't know. We don't have to prepare our children for information, because they can find it and they have AI. We have to prepare our children to search how to deal with what you don't know. This university, the 4, 5, some of you 6 months that you're going to be here, right? Because I don't know how long you're going to be here. It's not about learning skills, just learning technical skills. Of course you have to learn them. Not just it. It's also about, finding out who you are as a person. It's about making connections. It's about confronting each other. It's about falling in love. It's about trying out. Please do that. Take more time in dealing how to search than your studies. Because your studies, you're smart enough because you're here already, right? You will learn what you need to learn. But being a human being, That you don't learn that easily in an afterlife, right? Because then people expect you to know who you are. Take the time to do the social skills. Very important. Then creativity, logical, right? Find different ways, right? If you have a boardroom meeting and everybody's always doing the same, there will never be new answers. Do we have to sit in a boardroom? Is this the best way to do it? So how do you train your creativity skills? How do you incorporate that in governments, right? In companies, creativity. It's a big thing now in the work world, but we show how it can be done. And then active hope is very simple, right? Positivity, I'm of optimism. You know, when you say I'm an optimist, means that you believe everything is going to be okay. You don't have to do anything for it. You just believe it. And for 250 years you were right, and now you're not. So that's optimism. Right? So active hope means that there's actions that you think, I really want a better world. I really want these values, and you take actions. You don't have to solve it. You take an action. Just by getting up, by sitting here, you took an action. Active hope is what I talk about with impact. You do, or you don't do, which is the same, by the way. They both have impact. That's active hope. We can train how to search. Most of you here sitting have like maybe 20% search abilities. Right? I'm maybe 25%. We are all lacking the abilities and the skills to really search. While the world is changing for crazy, we need, if we want to contribute, and we all want, we need the skills to search. This is going to make you a valuable player in your own life and in others' life if you're not afraid how to search. My suggestion would be invest in that. The teachers here, invest in that. Let your children, let your students search instead of only saying what they should know. Because you only know this, and the world is this. As a teacher, as a person, as a student here. If you search, you might find. If you don't search, you'll definitely not find. And then you become lonely and depressed and fat, and then you look in the mirror and like, and suicide. Do you want to die? Or do you want to, no, that's true. Okay, so, here it says, this is a post I made for a festival once. It says, it's up to you, me, us. It's not only up to you, it's only up to me, it's up to us. It's all layers. That's what I like about it. The idea that you alone can change the world, no, you can't. And you don't have to. Right? If you fly or not, or eat meat or not, or save the Palestinians or not, it's you can search, but you can't control. So, breathe out and then discover. You know, that's the only thing we can do. And then, who knows? Life may be amazing or not. We can't control, but we do have impact. Thank you so much for listening.
There's some room for questions. I give you the microphone so you can be in charge.
Questions? Remarks or questions? Step 1 in searching is not being afraid to ask questions. Yes. Oh, and by the way, let's do real questions and not Dutch ones where you just tell an anecdote. That's somehow in Holland people love just to tell anecdotes instead of questions. Yes.
Thanks. I was wondering if you can give some examples of future literacy in like your own life. Like how do you, for example, I think many people here are probably will have to think about what to do after their studies or after their PhD or whatever.
Yeah.
Like how would you do that in
future
terms of
literacy?
Yeah,
very good question. So you asked actually 2 ones. So in my own life, I do it constantly. For example, I have 2 studios that I run. So it's about 20 people that I give monthly. I give them their paycheck, right? What we do is every quarter, so 4 times a year, we discuss if we want to stop the company or not. Every 4 times a year. Some's just me and my partner, some's with the group. Just the idea of what happens if we stop. What else could we do with our lives if we stop our companies, if we don't have this responsibility? Or what we did 2 weeks ago, what if we stop with all these clients? Why do we have these clients, for example? Do we like it? Is it still who we are or not? Or do we just do it to make sure that 20 people are getting paid? So constantly figuring out what else would there be possible if I don't do this? Or what else would there be possible if I stop this or I change this, right? Actually, the text on our website, we change every year. So we are this, and then we change it. And I learned I can change my own title, I can change my own name, I can choose constantly who I am. I can choose what I do, right? So if I work in a company and I don't like it, I can leave, actually. Especially in this economy, because especially for people like you, there's a lot of work, right? Or I can say to the boss, I don't like this. And if the boss says, hey, that's a good thing, let's change it, then I'm in a good place. So my values, I have to reflect on my values and then see, do they match my actions? That is what future literacy gives me. As students, when I graduate, I studied literature and philosophy. There are no jobs in literature and philosophy. Actually, people hate it that you studied literature and philosophy because you think you're a spoiled, boring, stupid person, right? Which turns out, no, some of us are not. But I knew I wanted to start an organization. I was like, I want to do this. And my parents said, and what are 5 other options that you could do? Like, no, I want to do this or die. I said to them because I was emotional back in the days. And then they said, okay, there are 2 options now. Give us 3 more. This is true. And I gave them 3 more. 2 I never wanted to do, right? And the one was like, oh, maybe yes. But I said, I really want to do 1. And they said, now we know, right, that you have more options in your head. So, of course, a focus, I want to be this, is perfectly. But the idea that there's always more gives you freedom. Because otherwise, it's only the pressure that you alone can be only this. And then you go into this tunnel. And again, I told you, burnout, die. So, it's really giving yourself the opportunity to search. Most of you are super young. Come on. You will get more lovers than you ever knew, right? Most of you. Okay, some of you will have lovers. Some of you will have many different jobs. The probability that you do jobs that you don't know, that don't exist yet, is bigger than you do jobs that exist, which is crazy to think about. I wanted to be a creator because I heard the word in Italy, someone who said, I'm a creatore. Right? I was like, great, where can I study that? Nowhere. Right? So I had to do literature and then philosophy, damn those white philosophers, and then I had to study the directing, and now I am a creator, and I still don't know what it is, because every year I change it, So I have the freedom to change, which can be lonely, by the way. This is a disadvantage of being always open. So I need people around me. So I have people, friends, that I really constantly do the conversation with, because otherwise it's just me alone trying to understand that there's no truth. Huh? So I hope free yourself from the burden of having to know everything, because you don't have to know it. He also doesn't know.
No. There's room for just 1 question and 1 short answer.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyone in the room? Yeah, see there in the back. Yes, of course. A bit doubting, but...
See Lucas
that's
running.
good.
Run.
That's a good...
It's not a short question,
So try to be brief. Yeah.
Yes.
well, I wanted to ask what you think changed in the 250 years that you said we were getting freer and wealthier. Is it just now recently a lot of big and wealthy people got away with a lot of bad stuff, or is it like changing
I can answer the question. I can answer. The biggest thing that changed, it started as a revolution of freedom, a positive revolution. People got more free. And we lost God, which is, not bad or good, we just lost it. So every week, 2 hours of reflecting that we are just nobody, we lost that, right? Because that was what church did. 2 hours reflecting, you're just a part of the whole universe, you're nobody, right? Apart from what the church did with children and so on. So we lost God, so a bigger belief, so we put everything on ourselves, and we lost community. The fact that we care for each other, because we only went to ourselves. So what you also see, efficient. I love profit, right? I like to have profit because it helps my goal to support my values. When profit is the end goal, then everything is about that. So profit, individuality, and risk avoidance, which is the 3 biggest one, became the end goal. And then it becomes very ugly because nobody cares. Nobody cares about each other then. Nobody does, right? So we lost the care for more than us, name it whatever you want, and we lost the care for the others. And nature, of course, is also part of more than us. Do we have to go back? No, because it was a terrible time 250 years ago, right? But we can go forward caring for others or caring for something more or understanding that we just people. We are just dots in the universe and we have impact but no control. If we understand that, we can rewrite our story. We don't have to be this lonely, depressed generation. Oh my God, we have the best time ever. 20 years ago, it was shit. Because everything was going okay. If you said something about, I want to change the world, people are like, the world is already fixed, right? Emancipation is already done. That's what the minister said here. And now it's going to shit, which is great. Because that means that we can all do something, have impact. And people go like, wow, you were the generation that changed it? Whoa, how was it, daddy, mommy? Oh, great, got drunk every day, Who cares? It's the fact that we can change it, but we don't have to. So the pressure of we have to make the world better, no, we don't have to. The world will never be better, but we can decide what we want, what we stand for, and fight for that. That we can do. Don't be too boasting that we're going to change the world for the better and make it a better world. Coca-Cola says they were making the world a better place. Eh? Fuck Coca-Cola. Eh? So we don't boast, be humble, but understand that you have impact. That's the biggest difference.
Thank you, Lucas. Nice round of applause for Lucas Leman. Thank you. Great job. Okay. So what a start was that for the first program of Studium Generale. If you subscribe to this program, you get a form, and we are very happy if you fill in that form, because it gives a lot of information for us, how we can change the program or how we can deal with your comments. So that's really nice if you help with us that. Just check the website of Studium Generale, and I hope to see you in many more occasions, and have a nice day. See you back at Studium Generale. Bye-bye.